Let me tell you why you're here.
I've seen things.
Oh my god.
Whoa, yeah! You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Guaranteed to jack you up.
Yo, what is going on, my dudes? It's your host, LamarStaysWeird, coming to you once again with another podcast. Now, I know it's been a minute. I just had a lot going on. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I was just, trying to get myself in check, take care of my mental health, focus on some other things. So I was doing that in the meantime. That's why it's taken so long. I was supposed to do this movie as soon as it came out, and I was super prepared for it. I had everything typed out, everything written, but I wasn't in the moment, and I can't bring myself to talk about something or put out something if I'm not really happy or in the mood to talk about it, because it just, in the end, it makes me not like what I did and end up deleting it or whatever. I've already done that before a few times with other podcasts. It's just not something I want to do. So it took me a minute, but I'm back and I'm here to talk about this movie, and I'm super excited to talk about it because I loved it. I watched it twice in theaters. It was amazing. I tried not to have high expectations because the previous film, Alien Covenant, that one was severely disappointing. So I'm not going to dive too deep into that one, but I didn't really like it. So I was a bit skeptical about this one, but the fanboy in me just had a hard time really trying to suppress the excitement I was gaining, because the more I saw the trailers, the more I saw people talking about it, the little scenes that I would see, it was just hard not to think, man, this movie is about to this movie's about to roll, and I'm really, really trying not to. I learned a long time ago to not get my hopes high for any type of movie just based on a trailer alone. I learned my lesson with the first Suicide Squad movie. Thought the trailer looked sick, it looked fun. Movie was fucking ass, bro. That was just a dog shit movie. So I'm now lowering my expectations from now on. So I really try to keep it manageable. But this one, I was having such a hard time trying to keep it in. I was super excited in the theater, and I even told my girlfriend, it's like, yo, I'm already messing up. I'm really excited, and I don't know how this is gonna pan out for me. So we'll see. But both of us ended up loving it, and it honestly reanimated my love for this franchise. I grew up watching the original and Aliens, and I recently revisited them because it's been so long since I've seen them, but I always loved the xenomorph. It's just such an iconic look. It's creepy, it's awesome. And then I fell in love with it all over again with Alien vs Predator came out. Man, I would rewatch that all the time when I was a kid. So that was super cool because I grew up watching Predator as well. So seeing those two duke it out, awesome. And then growing up even older, I started to see oh, there was comics about this, so this was inevitably gonna happen. I mean, being a kid, you had no fucking idea. I just watched movies. I didn't read those type of comics. I was only Marvel, superheroes and DC. That was it. So seeing this come together and then finding out, oh, this was always gonna happen at some point, amazing, because it blew my fucking mind. I never knew it was gonna happen, and then eventually, I remember vividly how excited I was at the end of Predator, knowing one of the Predators got impregnated by a facehugger, and the very end was where we got the Pradian, or whatever people called it, but I remember calling it a Pradian. And my friend and I were outside of school at parent pickup just talking about it, yo, what is gonna happen? That is so sick. This has never been done before. This is gonna be insane. We were just trying to figure out what does this mean? What's gonna happen? And then the sequel, Requiem, eventually came out, and you could barely watch the fucking movie as it is. But I remember it was cool for the most part, just seeing them duke it out again. But wasn't a fantastic movie, but there was cool things about it, not gonna lie. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just really excited to talk about this film. But as you can tell by the title and thumbnail, today we are talking about Alien Romulus. Now, this movie came out on August 16th. God, it has been, damn, it's been a month. Yeah, I feel really bad as of recording this. It's the 20th, so damn, it's been a minute. But yeah, came out August 16th. So if you have that as a birthday, pretty sick. But the movie, if I remember correctly, on one of the screens, it actually takes place on February 9th. So if you have that as a birthday, that is honestly sick. Like, you share it with this. It's pretty awesome. I like knowing what birthdays are shared with like movies and stuff. I've checked mine. Mine is shit. My list is probably like 10 movies or so, and none of them are good movies. So whatever. Now, this movie's 2 hours, but the pacing and just everything going on, you have no idea. And 2 hours is about the average, I would say, now of movies. Like back in the day, it used to be like an hour and a half. Now we're just in the period of longer movies. So 2 hours, pretty standard for your 2024, so on, movie experience. That's kind of what we're getting. And honestly, you can't feel it. You won't feel it at all. There's always something happening. The characters are engaging. I'll get into those characters in a minute because, wow, that's a lot to talk about right there. But I need to hurry up and get into the stats, because even if you don't like this movie, even if you don't like this franchise, I always want horror movies to succeed. Okay. And I know this is a movie that's banking off of a franchise. It's, of course, a sequel. And I get that. I know that's a thing. And I know people feel iffy about that we want to see more original movies, but this is very important as well. You can't name a project that still has continuations that are as good as originals. A lot of them are just not doing so well, and that's unfortunate. You can't help but watch a movie and be like, man, I want more of this, but I'm so excited and I'm glad this one just exists. Like, this could just be by itself and it's perfectly fine. That's okay. But more would be awesome. But it has to be good, and you have to be afraid of that, because I was talking to my friend the other day about something just like this, where, okay, I love the movie Chronicle. I love the movie District 9. Incredible movies. I would love more of that world to see what the hell goes on, but I'm perfectly okay with them just being the only movies, because I would hate to get a sequel and it fucking blows, dude. Like, I don't want that, I really don't. So having something like this where it's good, somebody who came in, who loves the project, who respects the project, that really shows right here. They put in the work, they put in the love, and on a budget of $80 million, it made over $315 million worldwide. That is amazing for a sci-fi horror movie. Amazing. Okay. And not even just that, and this was recently reported. I think I saw this yesterday or today as I'm recording this on the 20th. This movie became the highest grossing like horror movie seen in IMAX. That is amazing. That just shows people will come. The way prices are nowadays, it honestly, when I worked at the movie theater, I never realized how much money I was saving being able to watch movies for free anytime I fucking wanted. Okay, it wasn't until after I stopped working there. I don't go to the movies that often because I realize how expensive it is. It really is a luxury to show, like, in this day and age where everything is just expensive and it's just really hard to kind of support yourself sometimes, and to go out and do such a thing like this when you have access to thousands and thousands of titles at home. This movie did phenomenal in the box office, and it became one of the highest grossing horror movies in IMAX. That says a lot. That says, because IMAX tickets are not fucking cheap, bro. They're really not. I think they're like $20 a pop, like about average, somewhere around there. So the fact that happened and it got people to go to the theaters to watch this for that price, amazing. That shows if you're passionate about what you're doing and you really care and you put that into something, people are gonna love it. You have to be genuine, and that's what Fede Alvarez did, who is the director of this. He also did Don't Breathe, and he did Evil Dead. So he has two really good hands in horror, like with those films. That's really good experience. And obviously from Evil Dead, it shows he really gives a fuck about a project and tries to put his all. So honestly, at this point, put this man in any type of horror movie that he does respect. If you want to do like a sequel to like some franchise or something, he's your guy, because he's doing great. He's gone 2 for 2 now. He could probably do it again. And honestly, I don't want him to do anything else but this. This budget and box office return guarantees we should be getting a sequel. And I hope it's a damn good one, because and I know this is like a whole separate thing. I loved Prometheus when it came out. Prometheus, I think, is sick. It was nice to just kind of expand out a bit. A whole movie with only one xenomorph appearance, only for a few seconds at the end of the film. I loved it. I had no problem with it. I loved everything that was going on. I did not like Covenant whatsoever, and that sucks because the first thing they did wrong was kill off our final girl, and she went through so much shit only to be killed off screen for the next movie. That is so disrespectful. And Shaw was a great character. Like everything she went through, that whole journey and the journey she wanted to be on to figure out where her creators came from, why her creators wanted to kill them, all this other like stuff. And I think eventually she would want to figure out what the fuck a xenomorph is and why do the engineers have like this attachment to the xenomorphs, because they did have like that wall that did have like the xenomorph in this Christ like, pose, like crucified pose. So there's definitely some more connection that we never got to explore, and there's probably more lore behind it, but I never really dove into that. I don't know if it's canon or anything, because I really wanted to see it through the movies, but I don't know if like by books or anything else, if there is something. So by all means, let me know if there's any lore as to why that was already there technically before a xenomorph actually is created. You know what I mean? Because at the end we got a deacon. I know I'm just rambling a lot, but I'm just really excited about this movie. Honestly, I want to watch it again. I'm glad I got a little mini poster from Cinemark about it. My girlfriend's friend got it and gave it to us, so that's amazing, because it really sucks. I would have hated to miss out on this, but that's not all we got from the movie theaters. When it came to merch, said I'm gonna show that off right now because I geeked out about it so hard. Now, the first thing I want to show off, now this is from Cinemark, and thankfully through my connections at Cinemark, I had a friend set some aside because, dude, I was gonna miss out on these 100%. I already know people were reselling them like crazy, so I was able to get my girlfriend and I one. We're not doing it for reselling or anything. We just want some of our own. Like we just had to get them, and I love it. This is the Cinemark popcorn bucket. Now look how gorgeous that is, man. The detail in that, the biomechanical like of the head and everything. So sick, dude. And this thing is like fucking huge. Like look at this, like compared to my head, that is awesome. All right. And honestly, it does look it it looks a little yeah, it's kind of in theme with what Alien is about and all that. I mean if you look like closely at the shape, and yeah, like honestly, like it's smooth on the top, which you really like, and then it's ridged on the bottom like this. So it's honestly very well done, and just a nice little like tip right here. It looks amazing. Yeah, it's a really good product. Ow, fuck. But already, enough of the imagery. But one thing I love that I think was definitely an Easter egg towards AVP, which AVP doesn't get referenced at all because I think technically it's not canon, is this underside right here. It has a grip. Now, if you grip this, whoa, look at that. It looks like a shield. This is exactly like how like the chick wore this in AVP. Whenever Scar, I believe it was Scar, like the Yautja, the Predator, that was, trying to survive everything, and he chose her as a partner because she proved herself worthy by killing a xenomorph and saving him. So he gave her the head of a xenomorph and like cleaned it out because it protects from its acidic blood. And so she was able to rock this shit like this. So that is a gnarly Easter egg, man. I love that. You can't tell me it's not an Easter egg, because you didn't have to do that. You could have easily just had it as a popcorn bucket you'll hold and open up. No problem. You could have, but nah. They chose to add this. They know what they were doing. Somebody was a fan, or at least somebody did their research, and I appreciate it. And now this next one right here, I really, really like, and we got incredibly lucky. So this one we got from Regal. This was the best one that Regal put out, and Honestly, we didn't expect to find it. We just saw it was there. And this happens to be the only one we see around, just hanging out in the open for anybody to grab. And here it is in all its glory. It is a containment unit, man. This is gorgeous and it glows. This shit is amazing. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to movie merch. This is the type of shit we need. Not like these shitty printed shirts that I feel like anybody can get made. No, you need shit like this, man. This is fucking amazing. Like the little face hugger right there, the cracked glass, the Wayland Yutani logo, the glow, man, this, it's gorgeous. And thing is, we are not going to use these for popcorn, bro. No, these are not being used, okay? This is strictly decoration, and it looks great. This is just up in our living room somewhere. So fantastic. I feel like you won't be able to find these anywhere, and people are just gonna resell them, which is unfortunate. But I'm glad we got ours, and oh man, it looks amazing. Now I think I'm done gushing over the memorabilia, but now we're gonna go into the standard formatting. I already talked about who directed it. I want to talk about the ratings. I rated this movie a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It was great. If you guys want to follow me on Letterboxd or Twitter or anything, links are in the description down below. Click that, or they're on my profile somewhere. Check it out. On IMDb, this is rated a 7.4, and Letterboxd, the average is 3.7. I think there's a doable. I know some people didn't enjoy this movie. I will say this if you haven't seen it. So the common consensus that it kind of looks like what's going on here is if people loved Prometheus but didn't like Covenant, they love this movie. And then it's the other way around. If people hated Prometheus, loved Covenant, they fucking hate this movie. So it's weird. And maybe you'll find some outliers in between, that somebody loves all of them or somebody just hates all of them, whatever. There might be like some mashup, but that seems to be the two like big avenues right there of what's going on when it comes to the opinion of this film. And now I did go and grab some reviews from Letterboxd. I got some good and some bad because, I wanted to talk about them. And I think this is probably the best good review I saw. They rated it a 4 out of 5. And here it is. It says, Alien Romulus brings the Alien franchise back to its roots. Scary creature on a spaceship, slowly killing everyone on board. Fede Alvarez can direct the hell out of a slasher set piece, and the movie's combination of visual and practical effects is spectacular. There are a handful of tie-ins to alien lore, but by and large, this is a movie that can be enjoyed on its own. I loved it. Now, I firmly believe that this is a movie you don't have to watch the original. Yes, it does tie in, and I will get into that story-wise, how it's directly a sequel to Alien and it's prior to Aliens. So we'll get into that. But I think anybody can enjoy this. You don't have to watch it. You just could. Honestly, this is my favorite Alien movie now. I'm not gonna lie. I love the characters and everything. Don't get me wrong. I still love Sigourney Weaver and everything she's done. It's been great. She is a legend. She is like a badass. She's a babe. She, like, when you think of strong female-led characters in horror or just like a movie in general, she is one of them. She was on top of her shit as much as she could be. And unfortunately, everything just went to shit around her because of the men involved. And we'll get into that whole theme and stuff later. But I'm not going to undermine what she did. But Rain Carradine, or Kaylee, she did phenomenal in this film. Was great. I think she could definitely lead her own trilogy. So I'm really hoping we get more with her. They should not do her dirty. She's set up in a really good way, and we need to keep that. And then we got more 4-star reviews right here. These were just kind of funny, or like something relatable that I wanted to touch on. Every time they bullied Andy, I wanted to punch a hole through the fucking screen. Yes, I did too, because holy shit, was that infuriating to watch. And we'll go into that. I'll go ahead and touch on it a little bit. So Andy, he's a synthetic. He is a android, and an old like Wayland Yutani android that's usually used, I assume, for like mining and terraforming the planet. He was an old one that was kind of just thrown in the garbage. Rain's dad found him, reprogrammed him to care for Rain. And so they kind of have like this brother sister relationship since she's grown up with him. He comes off as somebody you could say is on the spectrum or has like some other sort of mental like disabilities or challenges, you know, whichever term is more accepted. And it makes you really feel for the character. And then you do see him get bullied because he is an android, just like how in Blade Runner, you know, nobody likes replicants or anything. They have slurs for them like Skinner or Skin Job. That's kind of the same thing here. And thing is, if I remember correctly, Ridley Scott said his movies, his universes, they are taking place in the same universe. You know, it's just extremely different time periods, but they are linked together. So it makes sense that they would still kind of treat synthetics, androids, replicants this way. Then I have another one. I can just feel the people who are getting ready to complain about fan service, but I am a fan and I was fucking serviced. True. I get it. I know some people didn't really like the callbacks or the quips a little bit where they just kind of you know they rehash like some lines, and I get it, total fan service, I get it, but what can I say? I'm the same thing. I'm a fan. I got serviced. I left completely satisfied and then some. I get it. I know people don't like it. It's pandering. And I know all of that really came into the fold when it came to films, all because of Force Awakens. I believe that's kind of what started all of that. And honestly and truly, I can say this, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I could say this movie, Alien Romulus, is pretty much on par with what The Force Awakens was to Star Wars. It reanimated everybody's love for the franchise. And I get it, it's a bit of a rehash. You could definitely say this movie is literally just Alien and Aliens, like put together, and a little bit of like some sequels. Okay, I get it, but it was done so well and so good. The Force Awakens, genuinely a good and enjoyable and hopeful Star Wars movie like that. That movie is Star Wars. I love it. It's great. I don't like that it was a rehash. You know, I really would have liked it to have a different story at least, but I loved the characters, the world that it was going. Everything set up there was great. But to me, in my opinion, they shit the bed with the other two, and that's sad. And I really don't want this to go that way. But I think this is a really good step, and Fede knows what he's doing, and I hope he keeps his hand in these movies going forward. I want him to direct these films so that way it doesn't end up like that trilogy, where this trilogy can actually be great. And it has the potential to do that because it obviously garnered so much attention and love, and fans coming back into the fold or new fans coming in. So much there, and it deserves that. And I really hope we keep going in that direction. And then we have another one where somebody said Priscilla Presley goes to space, only this time the xenomorphs are so much meaner than Elvis. Now that is obviously you know, in reference towards Kaylee, who played Priscilla in the A24 film. So honestly, I found that one kind of funny. That's a pretty interesting one to talk about. And now we have another one that's 4 stars. It says, from now on, when I think of God, I'm going to envision Kaylee Spaney with a gun. And you're not wrong. Did great. Honestly, almost as iconic as Sigourney Weaver when she fucking came out and had the gun itself. So I respect that. And Kaylee Spaney, she did great. She also was in A24 Civil War. Saw that. She did great in there. And then now she was leading this movie. She's great, and that was my first introduction to her. And then now this is like, yo, she's on her way. She's gonna be rad. I'm really excited to see where she goes in her future in Hollywood. And then now we got another one. This one's 4.5 stars, and it says, I'd recommend wearing a diaper because shitting your pants is a guarantee. I 100% agree with that, and I know that is in reference to the third act, and I'm not gonna get into it now, but that is definitely about the third act. And then now I got 2 bad reviews. One is a 1 star. I'll go ahead and go with that one. It says, I got the ambient normal evil of a legacy sequel that's just a rehash of every single previous entry, but it enters new territories of repulsive evil by making the main antagonist a ghoulish AI deepfake of Ian Holm, prison for all involved. Now, I do agree with this to an extent. I completely understand, just like how I said, it is like a legacy sequel. You know, there are like the callbacks to stuff, obvious, the little fan service. I get that. Now, the part where I agree is the Ian Holm like AI deepfake, bringing back his character. That is the only special effect in the movie that did not look good. And when it comes to AI, I am not a very big supporter. Doing something like this is a bit weird. It does get into a weird territory. I think it's a great tool, but I don't think it should be a replacement or deterrent from actually having somebody who's good at a job, be replaced. I will say that. Now, Ian Holm coming back, I think it wasn't exactly a bad thing because of how they went about it. They reached out to the widow, and unfortunately, he was a character that was never brought back in any of the other films, but they did bring back other people. So I completely understand that, it's like an homage because he never got the chance to come back. And I'm sure he would have loved the chance to come back in other films, but they just never did. And now they got to do that and remind people of his performance in the original. And it's such a gray area because they did reach out to the widow and she said it was okay. But that also sets a weird precedent as well. And I know New Rockstars on YouTube, which is a channel that breaks down a lot of movies and stuff, they even brought up the fact that is kind of weird too, because you never know who you're going to be related to as somebody who's famous. So they could reach out to like somebody's grandkid, or if they don't have any immediate family, they could reach out to like a distant cousin or like a cousin that maybe doesn't even really know them or had anything to do with them for decades or something like that. And then just like, hey, so you were related to this famous person. We would like to use their likeness for a movie. So you want to sign this, get a paycheck and stuff. And who's going to pass that up? A lot of times they're just going to say, yeah, because it doesn't really affect them. They're just like, oh, yeah, I'll take the money. Like, yeah, sure. Or maybe even negotiate some other bullshit. And that's kind of fucked up. So now they're just banking off somebody all because they just happen to be related to them. That's awkward to me. And I think that definitely shouldn't be a thing. And there's already a problem going on when it comes to the AI, deep faking and stuff, because Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars, they brought him back in Rogue One. And now all these years later, his estate or his family is now suing Disney for that because I guess they didn't go about it properly or something. I know it's been a while and some people are like, oh, why are they doing this now when they could have just done this a long time ago before the movie came out or anything like that, or as soon as it did. But you got to remember, it's not easy to sue Disney, okay? Disney is like the equivalent of the Wayland-Yutani company. They're really just about them. They're not for the people or anything like that. They'll do everything to protect themselves, all these loopholes, contracts, NDAs. So maybe they actually found a lawyer who probably saw like some wiggle room and maybe had basis to actually sue them and possibly win. So we will see. I gotta watch that because a major company that did use like an AI deepfake to bring somebody back is being sued, and we're just gonna see what that does and what repercussions may come after that will affect Hollywood. Because I think it's perfectly okay to use it to de-age somebody. Completely different thing. If they're still alive and they sign a contract that they're okay with it, like they know first and foremost, hey, we are going to be scanning your face after you've passed on, we will eventually probably try to use you in other stuff. Not saying we will, but there's a possibility that, yeah, if we do have a project that requires your character, we're going to do that. All right, fine. As long as they themselves agree with it, okay? Not this whole, oh, well, they passed on. We're going to reach out to your kids or your grandkids who you probably didn't have a relationship with, or great grandkids. And we're going to get their okay and go from there because they're just going to see a check and think, all right, cool, let's do that. So that whole tangent, that's just how I feel about that, okay? But we do have another one. This one's a half-star review. They said, complete and utter slop. Alien designed for maniacs who want the bad slapstick of stupid slashers. They reanimated Ian Holm's dead corpse and a bunch of one-liners. Fucking kill me. Kind of like what we just talked about. I don't really see the slapstick or anything that they were really referencing. I don't know if I'm just blind to it or I just really enjoy that type of thing and I just overlook it. So I don't personally agree with it, but I do understand people rating it a bad rating because it does feature an AI deepfake of a celebrity who is iconic in their role. Understandable. I completely get it. now we're going to get into the cast. I was only really familiar with Kaylee because she is an A24 alumni. You know, she was in Civil War, she was in Priscilla, so I don't really know anything else she's been in, but then now she's in this, and now she's definitely on my radar from here on out, so now I'll be referencing that from now on in any of the projects she's in. But she played Rain Carradine, our protagonist, and you could tell by the thumbnail who my favorite character was in this movie. It is Andy. Andy, played by David Johnson. Now, I don't know anything David Johnson's been, so forgive me. I think he's just mainly been in some shows or something like that, or maybe like just other films I just haven't really seen. But he is a breakout star in this. He did phenomenal, and this is where I wish people would just take horror movies seriously. I think his performance is definitely worthy of some award. I don't know what, but he deserves an award for everything. And I'm gonna go into a little bit of the story now. I already covered, you know, who his character is. So just him acting as an android that does have like these defects, he did great. You know, nailed it. The mannerisms, everything, even the creepy parts where they replaced one of his chips, you know, with a more upgraded one that wasn't damaged, and he reset. I've never seen an android or anything like reset in such a way. It was honestly creepy. He like froze up and was just looking up, and his eyes rolled back, and he had the brand, the company logo on the backs of his eyes, which I think is definitely similar to Blade Runner, because in Blade Runner, if the replicant looked up and to the left, you could see their serial number. So that looked really cool. I think this is definitely similar to that. Looked awesome. And he was just standing frozen while all this turmoil is going on around him, and it was rad. But after he gets that chip, because he's upgraded, he now has a new directive that surpasses the one he was originally programmed to do, which was protect Rain. Now he's under control of the company and is obligated to do what they want, to do what's best for the company. That is his directive. Do what's best for the company. Like, his whole thing is like getting data and getting some of the black goo. The black goo actually makes a comeback in this one from Prometheus, but this time they've extracted it from the original xenomorph. They didn't get it from the little capsules that were in, you know, Covenant and Prometheus. So this one is not as pure, pretty much, but they thought they found like eternal life, and that's what they're working on, and that's what he's there to protect as well. But the switch of him, he goes from being this extremely lovable character that you really just want to like take care of, to like kind of a dick. He's a robot. Like, he fully turns into a robot, like a full-on like sociopath, and he does it so effortlessly, and then eventually goes back into being like that adorable Andy, and it's just like, bro, you're making me feel so much right now. So Andy, David Johnson, incredible performance. He is a breakout and shining star in this one. My favorite character, and a lot of people's favorite character. I hope we see more of him in the future films. They should not get rid of him anytime soon at all. And then we have Tyler, who is pretty much Rain's ex. He's played by Archie Renaux. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name. But the only thing I know, he was in another movie that made so much money, Morbius. Sony's Morbius. So yeah, there you go. But he was also in Voyagers as well. So there's that. And one thing, I did see a complaint about characters not being super fleshed out, you know, besides Andy, Rain. Understandable. You know, I get it. That's just one of those things. And unfortunately, they could have been fleshed out a little more, but I still really liked everything the way it went. I thought it was fine. I picked up on the relationships pretty easily. And I know there's some theories that Tyler might have actually worked for the company and was kind of just setting up this whole mission for the company, that he weirdly has like Marine training, or at least it said that he always wanted to be a Marine, but I guess I never got it. But I don't know. So he could be somebody that's just acting like it, because there's people like that. I mean, just look at people who are in ROTC, you know, kind of like fuck most of those people. A lot of those people are assholes. I'm not gonna lie. They took it way too fucking serious, okay? It's high school. Relax, okay? And I think that's kind of what he was doing. And then there's Kay, She did great, man. I didn't know she played Dora in the live action Dora, and she was in other Disney shows. She was also in Transformers The Last Night, but she's also going to be in HBO's The Last of Us season 2. So now I can't wait to see her in that because she did great in this. So I'm looking forward to see her in there. She is Tyler's sister, so they have that relationship. And then the last one is, or not the last one, but they also have their cousin with them, Bjorn, who is played by Spike Fern. I'm not familiar with anything he's been in. Like I said, a lot of these people I didn't really know. And sometimes I really like that where they're kind of like small people boosting them up and then they get in a big project like this. That's just so cool. And then you see like their careers take off. This is great. Now he is a cousin and we're going to get into that a little later. And I'm pretty sure his love interest or his girlfriend in this movie is Navarro. And I believe her name is pronounced Aileen Wu. She did great for like her small part. And now I will say these people, okay, they grew up in this colony. So this colony, like where the whole story takes place, is there's this colony that's still being terraformed. And of course, a lot of people die because they're still like the planet's still not ready for it to be inhabited. So it's a mining like, community. That's all they're doing. They're just mining and eventually, turning I guess this planet into that, or they're only there just for the ore, this mineral ore. And I believe it's probably the same thing that they were going for or transporting on the original ship, the Nostromo in Alien, because they had like what 20 million tons or something like that. So that's what they're doing there. And that's how Rain's parents passed away, leaving her only with Andy. Now, this is where like the immigrant story takes in. I believe that's what this is. I see this movie as an immigrant story. I know other people could see this in other ways, but to me, this is definitely that. These are characters, the main characters we're following, people who don't have much, who live in just this terrible and toxic environment that they eventually want to get away from to get a better life because there's other opportunities out there, very much so, because they're on this planet so far away from Earth. And a lot of them, I don't think they are Earthlings. They were probably either born here or whatever, because there has been ships where they carried, embryos, colonies to where they can eventually, populate a planet. So they could have easily came from that. And it sucks, you get dealt such a bad hand like that, but unfortunately we can't control where we're born from or born into. We can just only try to control getting out and away as much as we can. And I feel that because I grew up in bumfuck nowhere, in Georgia, just small town there, and I didn't have a whole lot growing up. And now that shows a lot as an adult because now I try to give that little kid that didn't get a whole lot everything he wants now, and the experiences I didn't get to experience. And that's like no shot or anything at like parents who couldn't or anything, because it is an unfortunate situation. You can't really help that, and you can only try to make the best of it, and that's all we did. So I'm completely familiar with struggle or going without or anything like that, and that's okay. And I think that's a survival lesson that I've learned, and I now know how to be better at and go forward in the future, because I did that when I was 18 and I up and left and came down to Orlando with my best friend. We didn't really have much. We just tried to do what we could, and we made it. Now, unfortunately, my old best friend and we're not like super close anymore. We have like different lives now. They moved all the way across the country. Good for them. They're happy. They're in a loving, relationship. That's awesome. Super happy for them. Me, I'm still here. I'm with the people I love. I'm in a relationship now. I'm closer with my family. Like there's other things, and I get to experience like, so much. And I'm thankful for everything I have, and I'm super grateful. And it's just all about making the best of it and, just being smart. It's no dig or anything at people who are in bad situations, but you can indeed make it out. And this, I think, perfectly encapsulates that. It's a group of people that want to get out. Now, the only thing is, it comes in a weird way because Andy is a Weyland-Yutani synthetic, so he does have the programming and clearance. Now, there's this abandoned station that's just floating by their planet, and they want to get off of it because none of them are legally allowed to leave because they're all technically contracted to work these certain amount of hours, and then they may be able to. But because of either people dying or maybe people illegally leaving or, people probably imprisoned, whatever it may be, like quotas are going up. So now even if they met them, now they can't leave because it got doubled. So now they got to work double time and probably won't be able to leave for another couple of years. So after being denied, now the only chance they got is to just leave illegally. Tyler and his group comes up to Rain and is like, hey, we know a way out. We could do this. And she's like, okay, let's do it. Only to find out they don't really want her. They just mainly came to her just to use Andy, because if they take Andy on the ship and get there, he can access all the doors and be able to get to the cryo chambers that they could use to go to another planet that is 9 years away. And another unfortunate fact is they don't allow synthetics or anything like that. So that planet is most likely probably not controlled by, Wayland Yutani. So they probably have like their own company or something like that, but they don't allow synthetics at all. So she would be arrested. He would most likely be shut down. So it's sacrifice, and that's what unfortunately a lot of people have to do, especially. And I'm saying this as somebody who does come from an immigrant family, and the same with my girlfriend as well. We know our parents had to make sacrifices to get here, or our grandparents, where they never got to see their mom and dads again or anything like that. And it's super sad, the sacrifices you have to make. You have to cut off parts of yourself to move forward. And that's how it was. I am second generation legal. Like, my parents are legal, but my grandparents and great grandparents, they came here illegally, and they had their struggles, and I've seen where they grew up because I've been around that. So I understand living like in ghettos or just completely run down places where nobody really is. Like, literally my actual birthplace was about to be turned, like, it is a ghost town pretty much. There's not very many people there. It's just farming. And there was a plan at one point to just flood like that town. I can't remember why exactly, but that was something that was going to happen, but they just eventually didn't. And I still go down there to this day because I do have family that's still down there, because that's just their way of life. And some people are content with that, and nothing is wrong with that. I would want so much better for them, but at the end of the day, this is what some people want to do. Some people are just okay with what they got. They got their little slice and they're happy. All power to it. I still go see these people. I still love them so much. It's great. And like on my girlfriend's side, we know and we hear about the sacrifices, her parents have made, and the hurt of missing out on things and stuff. It's messed up, but it's just one of those things. And so I believe this is a great representation of an immigrant story, and at least a hopeful one at that, because spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, they do get to go where they want to go. We just don't really get to see them arrive, but I hope we see that in the next one and figure out what the hell happens from there. And there are many other aspects to this as well, because the whole colony aspect and the struggles of just being in such a small, tight community, because now there is that trope of, and this is something like even my mother has gone through, where like the older sibling has to grow up really fast and take care of the younger ones. And technically that would be what Rain is to Andy, having to take care of him, even though he's probably been like an adult most of her life. But still, at the end of the day, she has to take care of him because he does have problems. So it's growing up and having to sacrifice being a child, and it's what she had to go through. So that's a trope, and trust me, you could find that a lot in families, and it's sad. That's a sad thing on its own, because that's a whole slew of problems right there. And another thing that's pretty wild, and Alien does not shy away from taboo topics, because it was all based on pretty much just sexual violence itself, the imagery. And I'm pretty sure everybody knows that, like why things look a little like wild, like why face huggers do look suggestive in their own ways. And like I was referencing earlier, with the shape of the xenomorph head. And it's because, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this, but I want to talk about it now. The original Alien, what they wanted to do with it was to depict that violence and actually show what it's like for men to feel that fear, that women being afraid of men and sexual violence, because that can happen. It does happen, and it's super common. It's so unfortunate, because nowadays I can't personally meet a woman who hasn't been through something like that, and it's so unfortunate. And guys, we don't have to worry about that, but things do happen to men. I'm not undermining that whatsoever, but it does happen, and I say that as personally as somebody who has been through stuff. And I'm not going to dive too much into it, but it has been something that's affected me throughout my life. And unfortunately, I don't remember my childhood as much, and only finding out it's through suppressed memories. And I always just thought I was like fucking stupid, or like my brain deteriorating or something. So that was like super existential and wild to me, that I just forget a lot. I have really bad memory, and I'm pretty sure it stems from stuff that happened as a kid. And it's one of those things here where that does happen, and they wanted to showcase that and wanted men to experience that fear of being penetrated, impregnated, forcefully against your will, and having this thing grow inside of you and eventually burst out of you, and you have no control of it. There's nothing you could do. You're just in this vulnerable position that this is going to happen to you, and it's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And that's why all the men were dying in the original one, because they didn't have the same fear that women did. And Sigourney Weaver, her character, you could say, oh, she was just doing her job. She was all about protocol. Yeah, but right from the get-go, she was already afraid and skeptical of somebody having a face hugger on them. And it's like, no, don't bring them on the ship. We're not doing that. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't want to fucking know. And even knowing that it was keeping him alive, because that's what it does. It sends the tube down your throat, and it does have like these air sacs, where it is pumping air into your lungs. It's keeping you alive, even though it's practically nearly suffocating you. So obviously it's not a good thing, and it doesn't matter. It's keeping you alive. It's the fact something is still there. It's a fucking parasite. So it makes sense why the woman was so fearful of that, and she gets to live through all of that because she trusts her intuition that she just has. That's completely, driven by fear and anxiety. And that's what they wanted men to experience. And that's why you just see a lot of really shitty things happen to men, but it's all because we're super gullible. We our hubris gets in the way, and it just becomes like a whole thing. And now you get to see that again. So obviously they never shy away from taboo topics. And now in this one, you actually do get this hint, and it was confirmed on Reddit in a AMA. Fede Alvarez did say, because Kay, and I'm not trying to rhyme there, I'm really not trying to rhyme, but Kay is pregnant, and they don't know who the father is, and they only said some asshole. Brother doesn't really know much. It's just, okay, I'm trying to take care of my sister. We're trying to have like a better life, so on and so forth. Okay. But it wasn't until her and Bjorn, the cousin, are in danger that they share this weird moment where I immediately clocked, like, something is up here. Like, this is weird. But they share like this weirdly like scared, intimate moment of like lovers, like afraid of something. And it turns out he is the father of the child, and he is their cousin. And that is a stereotype in its own, because close, super close communities and families and stuff like that, that is a stereotype that happens, and it's in a bunch of cultures. It's something that's super common that everybody knows about, and it's a meme nowadays, because you got stuff like, oh, Alabama, or the fucking like boonies, where hillbillies and shit like that, all there is family, and eventually becomes stuff like that. That's kind of what happens. So yeah, like it talks about that, and I'm pretty sure that might have been triggering to some people. And I mean, because we don't know the aspects of their relationship, it doesn't seem like anything that was like forceful because of the way they interacted. So this might have just been something that just genuinely happened, consensually. I don't really know, but that happened. And it's not the first time, and I think this is something that's definitely talked about. And I saw this TikToker explain this perfectly. I don't know the name, but he was talking about, going back to the women's intuition, and this is in Prometheus with Shaw's character. Whenever they finally got to meet the engineer, her, David, and Wayland, whenever they were there, the engineer did not care about what the hell the men were saying. He only saw Shaw and was just so intrigued in every single word that she had to say. And the only thing she could think of is, Why do you hate us? What did we do wrong? That has double meaning. One, for the story itself that's going on right then and there, because the engineers did initially want to go and kill off the human race and probably restart life because maybe they just didn't like how it went. And I'll get into that in a second as to maybe why, because it is a deleted scene. But it's not just that, it also has a double meaning because it is a woman asking a man, what did we do wrong? Why do you hate us? And that's true. Women are, and I'm not saying women can't, be perpetrators as well, but a lot of times it's men against women committing these atrocious acts. And it does make you wonder, like a woman who is just born into this world and eventually grows up, who's probably never done anything wrong to a man, can become the victim of a man not even doing anything. A lot of times just being nice or trying to hold their own boundaries and be their own person. And unfortunate things happen. Really think about that. And as somebody who may be watching this or listening to this, if you're a woman or, you're dating a woman, or obviously you have a mother, or if you do have a sister or anybody close to you that is a female, that is an unfortunate fear that they have, where it's like, why do men just hate them? And it's even more prominent nowadays, with the whole incels and just outright just men just being super against women for like no reason. And just, it's so weird. I don't understand that mindset, but it's baffling to me. And I'm glad a movie like Prometheus really tried to touch on that. Alien didn't really do it in the beginning. They were tackling another situation, but I think Prometheus did well. And unfortunately, I just didn't like the direction they went to after that. And it shows because it never got the full trilogy. And I'm hoping with this one, we get to see something else, because I like how this trilogy is now just tackling an immigrant story. So it's rich. The Alien series is rich of themes, and I love that. And I'm glad that's really going to show from now on. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the show. There is supposed to be this show, and I don't know what themes are going to be there, but I'm very interested because we've already had different ones so far, and I really hope we get another different theme in this one as well. But I think this is an incredible movie, and it's great, and Fede Alvarez, he did phenomenal. And like I said, the pacing, by the time you get close to the third act, you already think this movie's over. Like, oh man, like, yeah, everything's summed up. Like, all right, this movie's almost ending. But then you think about it, it's like, whoa, there's still like another maybe 30 minutes left of this movie. Like, what else is going to happen? And this is where he shines. He really knows how to do a third act. This guy gets a third act. Because in Don't Breathe, despite finding out about everything, if you guys haven't seen Don't Breathe, people break into this guy's house to get money because supposedly he had this huge payout and he just has a safe full of money, but he's blind. So they go in there, try to rob the place. One of them gets killed, only to find out this guy is a fucking like ex-Marine or something. So you just see it as he's trying to defend the house, and it's scary because you get, while they're trying to get money to where they can leave a place to get out of their bad situation. And then you just see him as somebody who's protecting his house. But then it completely flips because you see this motherfucker has a woman trapped in his basement who he forcefully inseminated, like he forcefully impregnated, because she killed his daughter in a car accident. So now he's like, well, now you're going to give me a new daughter. That is fucking wild, dude. That is such a turn, like such a twist in the third act. And now they really have to escape this fucking dude. And eventually when that chick dies, he's like, oh, well, now I need somebody else to give me a daughter because she was pregnated with one. Now I'm going to take you. And that was wow, dude. That was insane. And oddly enough, that same actress was in the Evil Dead remake. And that third act was amazing because, and I do have a podcast on that, go watch it. The cabin in the woods, friends meet up, but they're there to help a friend get clean, and all that's going down, having to deal with withdrawals and stuff. But then you got all the supernatural shit coming, and you think they stopped the curse and all that, and you're like, oh, everything's good. But then immediately comes back in because it turns out the whole ritual has already been performed by all these people slowly dying. So the souls have been claimed. Now this entity is going to rise from the book, or rise from hell. And that's exactly what happens. And now this battle ensues between this girl and this fucking demon, and it's fucking wild. It's insane. So he knows how to do a third act, because this third act, he already warned everybody, oh, we're going to see something that hasn't been seen in movies before. It's going to be gross. And by the time we saw Kay's character and the fact that she's pregnant, already knew it is something with you 100%. Like that's the only thing I can think of. Going back to the black goo, unfortunately she suffered an injury, and to like save her life, they just figured, oh well, there's a good chance this black goo is actually going to do something, because Ian Holmes' character reference, it can save her, but you know, we don't really know what else will happen, but there's a chance. And she takes that chance, injects herself, and eventually towards the end of the movie, when you think everything's all good, they're gonna go off, she's taken out of her cryo chamber, notices she's bleeding, like something's about to happen, she's about to give birth. She does, and it drops out this sack, and it opens. It's very reminiscent of what the facehugger comes out of, and then it opens and you see a baby, like a human face, and it eventually escapes and grows, and then that's where we get Robert Rafrosky's offspring, which looks, it goes full circle. He kind of looks like an engineer, a human, and he has xenomorph qualities. Fucking scary, dude. Like when he comes out and he's on his all fours, like crawling, dude, that is insane. And it's in the fucking dark. It's so wild. And it becomes this huge cat and mouse chase of trying to kill this thing. And maybe they actually kill this one, because earlier I did reference the fact that the original xenomorph from Alien was in this movie, and you do eventually see the body, and you see it in the very beginning of the movie. You see like this chrysalis asteroid-like cocoon that it somehow wrapped itself in. You're wondering, oh, well, I thought it died. It was shot out in space, right? Yes, but they do say this is a perfect organism. It doesn't have to eat to stay alive or anything like that. And obviously it doesn't need air or any type of environment, because this thing, when it shot out in space, it was able to form this cocoon over time to preserve itself. And when it was picked up by the space station to run tests, it was still alive, and it ran around wreaking havoc and multiplying. It is a near perfect organism. I don't agree that it is a perfect one, because it still relies on an outside source to reproduce. Until they can self-replicate on their own, not a perfect organism, but it is damn near close. And the alien turning into this chrysalis thing, this is the first time we're actually getting to see that in film, because in the comics, the Deacon, the one from Prometheus, it was on that planet alone, because that was just like a vacant planet the engineers used to prepare that weapon. Eventually, and I think this is wild, there's even comic panels of this, that Deacon had like nothing else to do, so it just eventually morphed and I guess became part of the planet and turned into a mountain. It completely, it just morphed into a mountain. It became one with the planet, which is fucking insane. I only found that out about months ago. Like, because I always wonder, what the hell happened to the Deacon? That's what happened. It turned into a fucking mountain. That is insane. So these organisms are incredible, and I love that we still don't know everything they're capable of doing. It really makes you wonder. Now, I just really, really want to know what else happens. And I know some people didn't like Prometheus for that aspect, because everyone loved the mystery of not knowing anything about the aliens, and I get it. That's all fine and good. Sometimes a little mystery goes a long way. The little breadcrumbs that we were getting here and there, amazing, because we see the engineers kind of idolize this creature, and then the process of this weird process of how it eventually came to be, it just seems like something that's inevitably gonna happen. Like it's just gonna show up, almost like a biblical plague. And going back to the biblical sense, and I'm sorry I'm all over the place. I'm just going, man. But earlier when I was saying how the engineers did want to destroy Earth, their creations, and Shaw was asking why, it turns out there was this deleted scene where the engineer was explaining, we created you guys, billions of years ago. We planted the seeds and you eventually became. We sent one of our own specifically engineered to teach you guys like the way of life, and I guess pretty much to be on their level or on par, or maybe like just a little better, maybe not them exactly. And the person it was Christ. So pretty much they were confirming that Jesus Christ was an engineer, and they didn't know how to take it like humans. So they killed him. And it's fucking wild. And that makes so much sense where it's like, oh, we tried to help you. We tried to save you and better you. And you killed the one we sent to do that. You're not what we wanted. So we're gonna fucking wipe you out and start all over again. So that's fucking gnarly right there. And I kind of wish they kept that in because that would have added a whole bunch of lore right there. But it makes sense that we fear the unknown because our first instincts, and it shows in both ways throughout this franchise, our first instincts are to just fucking kill whatever it is we don't know or understand, or we get so blinded by our curiosity that ends up destroying us. So it's very either or. And honestly, I think it's because the engineers, I don't think they're going to be the first like life, if you know what I mean. I want to say they were probably made around the same way that we were made, technically, like in their universe, because one of them drunk the black goo, broke themselves down and fell into the water and eventually became the organisms that eventually grew and became us. I believe they were the same way. They were engineered by somebody else and then they try to replicate the same thing by making somebody in their image, and that's why we look different from them. And then it became a full circle thing because, like I said, I think they idolized the xenomorph, created the humans, xenomorph attaches to a human. Now that's offspring just looks like all three mixed together. That's such a weird full circle moment. And it was creepy, dude. It was so fucking creepy how the offspring was just feeding on its mother. And she was even lactating like this weird gooey like milk substance. I don't think it was the black goo, but something like that. And he just eventually just started feeding on like her neck and stuff. I don't think he was breastfeeding, so I don't think that even mattered. But still, you know, human reaction to the body of being pregnant. So fucking wild movie. I think I've covered my topics, but this movie, you know, as Norman Osborn would say, went back to formula. They just did a perfect job, in my opinion. And I can't wait to see where we go from here. But I did see somebody else express, what if this is a bad thing? Because they went back to formula of, oh, alien, spaceship, killing everyone, final girl, end, happy ending, everybody gets away, safe, maybe, until the next one. I was like, what if there's just nothing new that could be done with this franchise? And then there's just no hope. And that kind of sucks. Like, that's kind of sad too, because it's like, damn, they didn't really do anything new here. Nothing wrong with that, other than adding a new stage in how the xenomorph grows, because you do get to see like this other, you know, cocoon that eventually grows from. And it's just like, shit, that's honestly wild. But I kind of liked it. I loved it at the fact, even though they didn't really add anything new. But now that does make me wonder, shit, is this one of those things that kind of has to stay simple for it to be good? You know what I mean? But I mean, the stories have to be good on its own. I don't think it necessarily has to inject anything new. It's just more of the stories going on and then trying to survive this. But I think eventually that can get old where, oh, great, there's just a xenomorph that just somehow comes around and now everybody has to try to survive and it's going to be another woman, you know. Yeah, that's a little wild and I get that, but I loved Prometheus. It was a big step in a different direction. Loved it. A lot of people didn't, and then they did Covenant, another step in a different direction, another thing, but that was even more divisive. So honestly, I don't know. I have faith in Fede Alvarez. He really came in with a lot of TLC and it worked, man. He even tried to get as much as the original special effects team that worked in the original movie on this to work again, because he really cared about this project. And he's definitely earned my faith. 3 for 3 when it comes for movies. Don't Breathe, Evil Dead, and now this. So now I really can't wait to see where we go from here. I just hope the studio keeps him as director. Let this be his franchise and we'll go from there, because right now at the moment I think this is his magnum opus, and we'll see what happens after that. Please, by all means, watch this movie. It's great. I want to know what you think. So like, share, subscribe, everything. I want to know. Like, I really want to know. Support the channel. I really appreciate everybody who's been listening to the podcast, even in my absence. I still see the numbers and stuff. It means a lot. I'm sorry I've been away. I just got to take care of some things up here and, you know, just life in general. So, but I'm headed in the right direction. That's all that matters. I'm okay. Before I go, I feel like I definitely got to give you guys Cookie's fortune. Now, I wanted to get something about new beginnings. Between two evils, I'd like to try the one I've never tried before. Do with that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. But until next time, be excellent, be kind, subscribe to the podcast.